The story begins with a seemingly peaceful vacation for best friends Maddie and Trish. They traveled with a local guy to an isolated sea pool that has become separated from the open ocean. Surrounded by coral reefs and beaches, the lake is almost completely isolated from the outside world. Maddie and everyone else are happily enjoying their vacation when disaster strikes. The speedboat capsizes and both fall into the sea. Maddie feels something is wrong. Luckily, Trish and the guy quickly surface. Trish tries to swim away from the dangerous whirlpool, while Maddie tries to pull her friend onto the float. The guy thinks for a moment, then turns back towards the speedboat, but the next second, a whale's tail whips violently, throwing him off. The two girls scream in horror as they see the guy being dragged straight down into the sea. Josh struggles in the freezing water, struggling to stay afloat. His arms flailed wildly, and just as he was about to reach the buoy, his body was pulled down again. In an instant, streaks of blood appeared on the surface of the water. The two girls were paralyzed with fear. They realized something was lurking beneath the surface. Maddie suggested swimming towards a nearby rock. Both carefully glided their hands across the water, trying not to make any noise for fear of waking the sea monster. But soon after, a giant whale suddenly lunged to the surface. They finally saw the killer's full form. They frantically climbed towards the rock. But just as they were about to reach it, the float was pulled backward. It turned out the whale was pulling the rope attached to the float. Maddie quickly pulled the rope up out of the water. Suddenly, the whale's head surfaced. The whale's tail swept across the sea like the scythe of death. Maddie recognized it as the local orca, a notorious predator with superior intelligence. A creature known for its docility and friendliness towards humans. Why would it attack? She understood that staying on the float meant certain death. Maddie urged Trish to swim straight to the nearby rocks, hoping to escape the sea monster. In that moment of life and death, Trish plunged into the water, accidentally pulling Maddie down with her. Seeing the whale return, she quickly climbed back onto the float. Trish knew she had no way out. She swam frantically, using all her strength, and managed to climb onto the rocks just before the whale lunged. Maddie gasped, seeing her best friend narrowly escape death. Maddie threw her backpack to Trish and decided to risk her life swimming to the rocks, otherwise she would become its next prey. At that very moment, the whale pulled hard on the rope again. She swam at full speed forward. The distance was now short, and Trish reached out and grabbed Maddie as she climbed over sharp seashells, narrowly escaping the whale's attack. Both survived. Though their bodies were covered in injuries, it was far better than being trapped on a life raft in the middle of the ocean. After applying some basic bandages, the surrounding area became eerily silent. They began to speculate on the reason for the whale attack, something unprecedented. Trish suspected the whale might have come from the nearby aquarium. Their reason for choosing this place for their vacation wasn't just the beautiful beach, but also the park's fame for an intelligent whale named Cedo, a name that had been mentioned for over 20 years. They had come hoping to see its magnificent demeanor firsthand, but unexpectedly, the park had suddenly closed without notice. In fact, they had no idea that ever since the two baby whales were taken away, Cedo's personality had become much more aggressive. Until one day, Cedo actually attacked a trainer. The manager realized the danger. He feared that sooner or later someone would be killed. So he secretly hid the truth from all the staff and quietly released Cedo back into the vast ocean. And now, the two girls, stranded on the coral reef, had inadvertently become targets. Maddie tried to remain calm, but another fear began to creep into their minds. Trish rummaged through her remaining backpack. Inside were only the last pieces of chewing gum and a wooden box. The two friends shared the meager amount of gum. This was probably their last food. Trish quickly devised a survival plan, using plastic bags to collect condensation. But they had to wait until nightfall when the temperature dropped and then sunbathed the next morning. The afternoon was the harshest time. The two sat motionless under the scorching sun, their bodies soon showing signs of dehydration, their strength draining away. Just then, the roar of an engine echoed from afar. Both jumped up, frantically screaming for help. But the fishing boat was too far away for their voices to reach, their hope fading. The two girls plunged back into the abyss of despair, while the whale continued to circle around them. Maddie suddenly understood why Cedo had done this. They had only been trapped for less than a day, while Cedo had been held captive by humans for 20 years. It was no wonder this killer whale hated humanity. Maddie felt something beside her. she was stunned to see an object floating gently in the water. It was Josh's arm. Both were speechless because a flashlight was still attached to it, a faint glimmer of hope flickering within them. At night, all attempts to use flashlights to attract ships in the darkness proved futile. At dawn the next day, Maddie woke up to Trish's delirium. They were completely exhausted. Luckily, a small amount of fresh water had condensed in the plastic bag. Without hesitation, they poured it straight into their mouths. Although the amount was small, it was enough to quench their burning thirst. After a day and a night of torment, they no longer expected a rescue. They wanted to enjoy every remaining moment as peacefully as possible. Maddie decided to dive into the sea to find food. Trish stayed on the rocky outcrop, keeping an eye on their surroundings. Suddenly, a whale lunged from the water, and Maddie's body trembled. Hastily picked up a seashell and quickly climbed back onto the rocks. By this time, they hadn't eaten for over 30 hours. The tiny seashell instantly became a lifesaver, but its shell was too hard to open easily. Maddie held the wooden box in her hand, lost in her memories. A year ago, Maddie and her boyfriend were happily together when a robber suddenly broke into their shop and threatened them. Maddie panicked and handed him all her money, but the robber wasn't satisfied. He demanded her necklace as well. This time, her boyfriend couldn't take it anymore. It was a meaningful gift he had given her. After a fierce struggle, the robber was shot and fled. Maddie's boyfriend chased after him, picked up the necklace that had fallen to the ground, and returned it to her. Before Maddie could even express her gratitude, tragedy struck. He was in an accident and passed away. To commemorate her lover, Maddie always carried his ashes in a wooden box. But now, she had no other choice. Maddie decided to use the box as a tool. The shell quickly broke open. They both devoured the sea snail meat as if it were the most delicious food in the world. The wooden box was now ruined. Maddie, heartbroken, looked at her boyfriend's ashes one last time before silently throwing them into the sea. Perhaps it was time to let go, to say goodbye, and let him go forever. Trish looked at her best friend in a state of irreplaceable loss. She couldn't help but confess her biggest secret. It turned out that the robbery all those years ago was orchestrated by Trish. The two had agreed beforehand to split the ill-gotten gains equally. The only thing Trish didn't expect was Maddie suddenly changing shifts that night and showing up at the store. If it weren't for greed, Maddie's boyfriend wouldn't have met such a tragic end. Trish's voice trembled as she said she deeply regretted everything Maddie had lost. But Maddie completely lost control after hearing the truth. She couldn't believe that her best friend, for money, had indirectly killed the person she loved most. Maddie said that Trish had no right to stand there, that she should live with guilt every minute of every day. Those words were like a knife stabbing Trish in the heart. Instead of sitting there waiting to die together, the best option was to swim to the rocks near the shore, find a way back to the beach. If Trish were unfortunately killed by the whale, it would be atonement for past mistakes. Trish said she deserved that end. Before Maddie could react, Trish dove underwater. Both knew that killer whales were always lurking around, constantly moving. Seeing her best friend about to be caught, Maddie gritted her teeth and jumped into the sea. The loud noise immediately attracted the attention of the beast. She then swam up as fast as she could, climbed onto a nearby rock, and miraculously escaped death. On the other side, Trish was also lucky enough to swim to shore, but the situation was no better. Just as she fell onto the sand, the roar of an airplane echoed in the sky. Trish desperately raised her head, screaming for help and waving frantically. She quickly wrote a distress message on the beach, but unfortunately, the plane once again flew away. Trish continued screaming, unaware that the monster had caught up behind her. It grabbed her and dragged her into the sea. Maddie thought her best friend had met a tragic end. Unexpectedly, Trish miraculously crawled back to the beach, but that had drained her last ounce of strength. Maddie was in so much pain she was almost collapsing. Now she was alone, facing despair. The cold night wind lashed against her face, her body trembling with cold. Suddenly, thunder rumbled and heavy rain poured down. Finally, she was able to replenish her lost fluids. A flash of lightning struck, and Maddie saw the whale surface. She was horrified to notice a deep scar near its eye. It was undoubtedly a mark of human sin. In that moment of inner turmoil, Maddie risked everything and jumped into the sea, not to escape, but to face the consequences of human actions. Upon reaching the shore and seeing Trish's body, Maddie sobbed uncontrollably, trying to suppress her pain as she covered her friend's body with sand. But the beach was still far away, and she lacked the strength to swim. Maddie noticed the sunken motorboat and immediately dived down, swimming quickly towards it, finally finding her backpack. She immediately tried to call for help, but it was useless. The phone was completely broken. Just when she was at her most desperate, the whale appeared. It circled relentlessly, closing in. Maddie couldn't return to the beach. She dove deep to the bottom, holding her breath, and hid under the motorboat. But the whale still wouldn't leave. Maddie quickly grabbed her spear. When it lunged, she stabbed it straight in the mouth. Severely wounded, the beast was forced to retreat quickly. Exhausted, Maddie surfaced. She saw the whale had disappeared, and luckily, a life vest floated by. She didn't know how long she'd been adrift at sea, but finally, someone saw the distress signal Trish had left. Maddie was rescued. After the death of her lover and the betrayal of her best friend, Maddie felt reborn. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.